Welcome, thanks for joining me, and let's just dive straight in. You guys want to know how I ended up with this image, starting out from this image. So not too extreme, not too many changes, but nice and subtle. So let's see what we are starting out with. And I actually love this image so much. It has so much potential. And this was made at dawn, somewhere last summer, summer of 2020, when we were starting an ascent just above Chamonix, starting from the Albert Premier Refuge. So if you're familiar with the area, you might be familiar with these mountains. So Chamonix, France, first light, just awesome. Okay, let's see what I can do with this image. And before I forget, the first thing I notice, this lone star here, I need to get it out of the way before I forget. Just apply the heal tool. Done. That's it. Little star is out of the way. Now when we look at the image, and when we just analyze what we have to work with here, is this amazing light and contrast. And in case you were wondering, so we're working in Capture One, the Fuji version, and this image was made with a Fujifilm XT4. And what we could do here in the color tab is when you look at the ICC profile, the curve, this is auto. So what I would typically do when you flip through here and you have all the different film simulations, what I would typically do with an image is I will go to linear response, which makes it as flat as possible, which gives me the absolute most flexibility in pushing it one way or the other. But when I look at the auto setting here, I already like the color and the contrast a lot. So I really like this as a starting point. It is also not my intention to push the colors too much in unrealistic ways. I just want to maximize the potential that this image already has. Mainly that's going to be just sharpening up this part, enhancing the contrast we already have without brightening it up too much. But then here in the bottom, this is just like a murky mess, and we still want to keep it. So first things first, what we always do is we work on the dynamic range. We want to work on making sure that it's bright where it's supposed to be bright, dark where it's supposed to be dark, before we start to push the colors around. And if I go into the curves, where the curves here, and I start to let me just, yeah, this is why. A new filled adjustment layer. And I lift the shadow slightly. This is already taking away from the sky here, you see? So I want to preserve as much of the sky as possible. So contrary to what I would normally do, I'm going to start out adjusting luminosity locally, so not over the whole image. So when you look at the image, this diagonal here kind of is the border between what is already well lit and more or less the way we would like to keep it, and then this here, which we would like to change quite drastically, well, at least touch it up. So I'm going to try to avoid doing too much here already. So let's just see where the mask is here. I'm just going to expand this and bring it up, more like that. Yeah, this way-ish. It's good. And we're just going to call this layer is bottom half luminosity. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled it right. Doesn't matter. You guys are here to watch image editing, not a grammar show. And then I'm going to go into the brightness. Actually, let's give that a little go. Okay. See what happens when we up the shadows in this. Just pushing around these sliders just to see what it gives us. What the difference is between just upping the brightness. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with brightness. See, when I'm lifting the shadows here, it's not actually doing much to the color in the midtones. So, and then when I lift the brightness, I'm retaining a little bit more contrast in there. And the people who are in the shot down there, they're actually coming out of it quite a bit better. I don't want to push this too far, because when I push it too far, it just becomes completely unnatural. So I do want to preserve somewhat of the mystery. I want to preserve the feeling of the sun dawning over the horizon while we are still walking in night. So I'm just going to give this, let's just see, back to 0. No. Yeah, something along those lines. Just going to leave it down there. Let's see what happens here when I touch the exposure slightly. That's too much. And just leave that down there. We're just already going to give it a little bit of clarity as well. Because what this does is actually, when you add punch, it saturates the colors a little bit. So yeah. No, I'm just going to leave that. Let's see. Before I want to start touching the rest of this image, I am going to think this is about what I want to do with this bottom half here. I'm just going to keep working on this bottom half. Add some contrast. No. I'm actually going to work with a little bit of color here, and then I'm going to do local adjustments. So local adjustments first before. Actually, I'm going to do color first here because I want to work with this yellow jacket. So this person is the only obvious human being in this photo. So when this photo is actually posted onto Instagram or Facebook, there's a very high chance that nobody will ever notice these figures, or at the very last minute. So what they will notice is the sky, the skyline, the light, and then hopefully this person. So I'm just going to go to the color tab. Then I'm going to go into skin tone. I'm going to sample this yellow down here. And as far as I can tell, this is the only yellow of that kind in the whole image. So just gonna do a few selected color range. Oh, there's some stuff down there as well. Try to make sure that we still have the yellow. So yeah, good. So now you can see that everything down here is actually black and white. So this is not selected except for the yellow. I actually want to push that yellow down that way to be slightly more smooth. Okay. Turn off view selected. And now you're just going to keep your eye on this jacket down here. So we're going to make the hue a little bit more uniform. And then I'm going to saturate it a bit as well. And what this should do is this yellow should really contrast with the blue hues in the rest of this photo quite nicely. So, okay. Going to see what it does when I give it a little bit of lightness. Not too much, just gonna leave that, saturate it lightly. Okay, just gonna leave that still. Actually, I made an error here, but this error might be to my advantage because I was editing the color in this bottom half luminosity mask, which means that there's going to be more effect here where the mask is thicker than where the mask is, less apparent. And this is actually a lucky break, because if I were to apply that to the whole layer, this would stick out like a sore thumb. So now it keeps the gradient in there, which is good, which is what I would like to keep. Something else that I can do here with the color in this bottom half is I could accentuate, I could make it like colder. So if I go back to this, yeah, there we go. Going to lift that up slightly more. Yeah. And I'm actually going to see what happens here when I make this feel colder. Yeah. So this is the way it was, which is actually, yeah, relatively uniform to what's happening in the rest of the photo here. And then making it colder is, let's do that in the color balance thing here. So the shadows, let's see, maybe make the shadows slightly warmer. No, that's not what I would like here. Go to the midtones, add a bit of cyan in there. So that's making it quite a bit colder now. But it does look quite unnatural. Well, I just know. Here, add a little bit of blue to that. Cool. Not too much saturation. So you see, when we turn this layer on and off, you will see that you've actually enhanced the yellow a little bit, add a little bit of blue to the light, and then lifted the shadows up a little bit here. Cool. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to actually add another field adjustment layer. So this is a full layer. And now I'm actually going to start to brighten up this area a little bit. So for that, I'm going to use the style brushes. If they are in here, yes, there they are. Light and contrast. What I would like to do is I would like to brighten in general. See how hard that is. Size, yeah, I'm happy with the size. Hardness, 50, yeah, cool. Opacity, 100 flow. Give a little more. Okay, and now let's stroke this area. That is actually quite harsh. We can always lower the opacity on the layer. I don't like that, that's too harsh. So let's say, oh, I put the opacity to 100. How did I do that? Okay, let's put it to 60. Now let's go again. Yeah, that's a lot more subtle. And that is just going to make these rocks and these people magically appear. Lower down the brush size here. Going to give those people that slight little bit of extra. Try not to exaggerate here. Move the brush over this area as well. Cool. Creates a little bit more depth. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That brings back a lot of contrast in there. Let's see, I might give those areas just a slight brush as well, just a little bit. And then this here, this is less important. I'm just gonna leave that in the dark. So we want to focus the eye on this part of the photo. Lower the brush size, lessen the hardness. No, that's just too much. That is sloppy. I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm going to actually work on this person a little bit. Not a lot is being recovered from there. And try not to overdo it so this person does not start to glow in the dark. Let's zoom out here, see if that is not too much. No, that actually looks relatively okay. Do the same to this person down here. Just slightly, just a little bit on the pack. So we see somebody's there. There's Mike. See if that brought them out a little bit without making them glow. Yeah, that looks quite good. But this area now looks too bright to my taste. So I'm going to, there we go. Take a little bit away there. Good. Same for here. Yeah, get some of the shine of that snow. This white rock as well is annoying me. Have another pass. Cool. Very good. Very nice. I'm actually quite happy with the result down here, down low in the photo so far. So when we make a sweep now, you will see that we have not touched the higher part of the image yet. But what we have done is mainly here below this ridge, we have added more detail. We can actually see that there's people in the foreground there. And then we made it slightly bluer, which is good. I'm happy with this. So I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm going to transition with a new filled adjustment layer to the top part of the image now, where I will also add a gradient map for us to do stuff in. See where the mask is. And the added advantage of this gradient map is that it's going to let the two parts of the edit like really flow into each other without having like a hard edge. At least that is my hope. Okay, cool. So we're gonna call that the top half. Luminosity. Jesus, what a word. What a word. Okay, what I want to do there is first I want to see what happens when I simply up the contrast. Give a little more. There we go. That is actually quite cool. See before and after. Yeah, that is nice. See how punchy that gradient has become? So where my cursor is right now, this was quite uniform and milky, but now it just gets dark and nasty, which is really nice. I like the contrast between the dark and bright areas here. But since, at least in my opinion, this top half of the photo here is the star of the show, what I would like to do is I want to add more punch, more structure and sharpness and contrast to these areas while preserving the sky, preserving this gradient. And then I would like to push those colors slightly. So I'm going to add another field adjustment layer. And I'm going to call it Sky Color. And then I'm going to go into the Color tab. I will go to the Master Color. Now we're going to go to the Color Editor. I'm going to go to Advanced. We're going to select somewhere here in the middle of these colored bluish tones. Okay, let's see View Selected Color Range. Yeah, which kind of makes sense. It is part of the sky. Yeah, I'm just going to... No, I'm not going to use the entire saturation. I'm going to use that. I'm going to include more of the purples, the reddish colors. Yeah, you see how these are being added now. I'm going to get rid of some of the cyans. Just trying to select the warm parts of the image here. And when I push too much into the yellow, you see the person's yellow jacket is being selected. So I'm just going to move back to the point where the jacket becomes gray. All right, that is acceptable. So I'm going to disable view selected color range. And what I will do now is I will start to up saturation. So if I undo this, you see it's, yeah, relatively flattish. And then when I redo, that is now a lot more red. So I'm actually going to push the saturation further still. Just add that glow to that. That is now probably too much. That is just too extreme. That's no longer realistic. So I think around 30 is the sweet spot. So this is flattish. Yeah, 30 has that color. Going to go slightly less. Well, no, here, 30-ish. That is okay. So let's see before, after. Yeah, that gives it that little colored kick down there. Nice. Next, we see that we have quite a bit of, see this brownish tint here? This orangish tint? I might see what I can do with that. So it's just select this and then view selected color. I'm actually going to expand the saturation. So you see this reddish glow. It is in the snow and it is on the rock here. To expand this. Nope, I will not. Just leave it like that. Add the purple into there. Okay, view selected color range. And this is now difficult. The thing I'm considering is, am I just going to up the saturation even further? No, because then this is affected as well. So I'm just going to undo this. But I have selected this color range, but I don't want to use all of it. So what I will do here in color editor is I'm going to click on the three dots, create masked layer from selection. Thank you, Kaja Smokwa. Smokla. I don't know if you're pronouncing your name correctly. Just if you go on YouTube and you Google, well, you YouTube Kasia, K-A-S-I-A, she has really, really good tutorials. So I'm just going to call this Rock Glow, enter, and then I'm going to hit M so I see the mask. And I'm going to use my eraser tool to get rid of all of these spots here, because I don't want to make any adjustments in that part of the photo. There you go. I actually also don't want to make extreme adjustments here on the far edge of the photo. Let's get rid of that as well. And then I don't want to make adjustments here on the snow. Oh, that was too much. I want to make adjustments in the rocks there. So you guys go. Going to make the brush size smaller. Get rid of this glow in the snow. But I want to keep the glow in the rocks. I'm going to make the brush even smaller. It's funny how difficult this is on a computer. Like, see how long it takes to recalculate that. I have quite a powerful desktop computer here. This is really, really power intensive image editing. Like, I can't imagine like a couple of years ago, like how taxing this must have been on a computer. Okay, so kind of cleaned up the snow almost completely here. Just a little patience, bear with me. Okay, let's get rid of that as well. So now we have this color, specific color selected in the rocks. Go over that with my eye. This is another snow field. Lots of snow here as well. Good enough, good enough. Okay, I'm going to switch off the mask so I can actually see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to warm that up. Ooh, atrocious. What am I going to do with this? So that was the white balance that I was changing. So what I want to do there is go into the midtones. And I'm actually going to this is now very saturated. That is not my intention. Put it down here-ish. And then we're just going to move the hue down there, you know, where it's a little bit more yellow, orangey. So this should make it warmer. Let's see before and after. Yeah, that gives it I'm just switching this layer on and off now. Not actually changing a lot. Let's just up saturation. That's just too much. Nah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It does not seem to be doing much from what I can tell. Down here you can see it's quite a lot warmer, but I don't think it fits the color scheme here, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay. So we added warmth to the sky. We lifted the foreground. We added contrast in the top parts, and I'm actually going to add more contrast and sharpness in the top part right here in the rocks, the star of our show. So I'm going to go to basic adjustments here. I'm going to add a new empty adjustment layer. I'm just going to call this sharpening the cracks, because I want to sharpen the rocks and the cracks in the glacier. And then I'm going to go into style brushes. I'm going to go into enhancements, add detail. I'm going to increase the brush size. Hardness 50, yeah, that's good. And then I'm just going to start stroking the image here. Then later on we can always change the opacity of this layer. So what you'll see is, as I am doing this, the brightness of the image is also lifted. Especially down there, just want it to be more detailed, more structure. Add some structure here as well. Same thing for here. I don't want to have too much structure in the snow, because all of these lines here, that's just gonna become messy, especially after, you know, the image is scaled down. That's just gonna look like a mess. Wow, look at how you should always be applying this at the 100% zoomed in. I'm not too worried about that because this image will never be used at its full, well, at least not in this version, will not be used as a large format. Just make the brush smaller. There we go. Follow these cracks. Everything that is sharpish, jagged-ish. Going to give that little bit of extra sharpness. Zoom out again. And actually the image is starting to approach what I would like it to be. I'm not gonna drag out this video for too long. I'm quite happy with this. Could always revisit it later, but now I just would like to avoid editing it to death, beating a dead horse, over editing the photo. A bit down here again, just keep adding some of that contrast. Add contrast to that rock. It's so tempting. You could spend ages just doing this alone. Okay, don't want to add too much sharpening to the foreground because I need this to draw the eye. Cool. Have another look at the before and after. This is quite nice, while still remaining quite natural. I like what I have done here. And now just for some details, this light streak here at the far right is actually I find it distracting, so I'm just gonna add new empty adjustment layer. Just going to call this far right brightness. Just being lazy here. Could go and search for the correct layer, but I'm just going to, no, that looks like shit, sorry. Undo. Just leave it as is. Okay, I'm going to add some bottom vignette. And I'm not going to make this too complicated. This is not going to be a round vignette, but just go like this-ish. Show me the mask. So this bottom snow layer down here is not much added value for me. I would like the eye of the viewer to be directed upwards. Okay, that's good. And I am going to take away exposure from that part of the image. Let's make that dark. Decrease the brightness. So the eye of the viewer is being drawn up. Cool. And then this here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a top vignette as well. New empty adjustment layer. Top vignette. And I want to exaggerate this corner up here. Try to make that at least somewhat soft. Yeah, just leave that gradient follow the lines in the landscape. There we go. Okay, I'm going to see what happens when we up the contrast. No. Leave the contrast alone. Let's take away some of the exposure. just ever so slightly. Okay, and then I want to enhance the feeling that the sunlight is actually coming from there. So I'm going to experiment with, let's just call it sun. Now we're going to take the radial mask tool. See where the mask is. Okay, we're going to invert the mask. How do I rotate? This way. All right, just make it big. And then move it down here-ish. Narrower. It's probably not going to work out, but I'm just going to give it a try. Hide the mask. And I'm just going to up the brightness there. Ooh, look at that. Yes. That is working the way I intended. So when I switch this off now, this should be quite a bit darker. Yeah. And then when I switch it back on, this becomes quite a bit brighter. So you really get the feel, you know, the sun's coming from that way. Make it a little bit larger here. Yeah. See what it's like without. Yeah, we are losing a little bit of the gradient there, but not too bad. Yes, and this is how I am going to leave the image. Maybe just going to try to add a little bit more overall sharpening. Finish it off. The new field adjustment layer. Just going to go to details, sharpening. There we go. The bit. Numerically under 10. And that's it, I guess. This is how I'm going to leave it. Okay. Before and after. Before, after. There's probably a million more little detaily, nitpicky things that I could do to this image. I just do not want to create an endless video down here. So I'm just going to leave it at this. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you would have done anything different. And if you enjoy these kind of videos, maybe I'll make some more. We will see. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.